we'll just start at the top. We'll go LAFC Vancouver, and then we'll work our way down. This series, pretty much exactly how you expected it to go. Vancouver kept it closer than I think most people thought they would because LAFC had a history of beating the garbage out of them. But they won 2-1 at home. They got throttled 3-0 on the road, and then they survived in advance on a 1-0 win thanks to Matty Bogusz. Connor, your thoughts on this series?
I don't feel like super convinced by LAFC in this series. I mean, we'll talk about another team later where they feel a lot more convincing, but it felt like they just barely squeaked out this victory against Vancouver, which, I mean, you could say, like, obviously, at the end of the day, they still got the win, right? That's more than you could say for majority of the higher seeds in the Eastern Conference, and they're moving on to the next round. And believe me, there's nothing I would love more than an El Trafico, and the conference final would be insane. But I'm not like super sold on LAFC as the favorite, even at home going into the next game. I mean, I think they'll definitely be the favorite in terms of the odds, but I wouldn't be shocked if Seattle gives them a hard time and maybe squeaks something out. I mean, Vancouver obviously played super well against Portland, blew them out of the building, and then kept it close in both away games and then blew them out at home. Obviously, that's not going to really matter in this case when you have just a one home game against Seattle, but it's impossible to fully count out LAFC. Obviously, you have Denny Bouanga on your team, and this guy is absolutely insane. But I think they're susceptible. Like I don't feel like they're an unbeatable team in this playoffs right now.
No, I agree with you. I think in my preview, when I did the preview, it was kind of like this is LAFC's series to lose, right? If they played Vancouver or if they played Portland, it's always going to be a fun game. But they usually beat Portland. Vancouver, they've beaten them 4 out of the last 5 games, combined score of 11-3. The only time they lost, it was on penalties in the Leagues Cup. Like they were in control. It wasn't supposed to be crazy. But what was surprising to me was that blitzing that they did in the second game, Vancouver against LAFC. I knew you were going to make it competitive. It's the playoffs. They're at home. They had a really good crowd. They weren't going to, bend over. But I didn't think they were going to drop 3 on their head and then just run away with it into game 3. I think it shows the potential that Brian White, Ryan Gauld, and Stuart Armstrong had. I think they created a ton of chances. They actually drew 2 own goals that it doesn't happen often in games, double own goals, but I think it showed the fans what this new trio can do. However, I think it also highlights that there's still some work to be done, right? They're just not at that level where you go in, you're like, no doubt this is a Vancouver series that they can walk away and steal. I think first they have to hold on to all 3 of those. If calls start coming for Brian White, Ryan Gauld, I think you got to hold on to them if you really want to compete here. And I think they also need to do a little bit of work in the back line and that defensive midfield area. If you can get 1 or 2 more players that just really solidify that area, I think you're looking at a team that is not a play-in team anymore. I think they're truthfully going to be a top 4 side.
Yeah, I 100% agree. It'll be an interesting offseason for them, but I could see maybe Ryan Gauld leaving. I don't know if I'd see a situation where Brian White leaves. He feels like a Vancouver guy for a long time at this point.
I mean,
Plus, they
listen,
have no other options. If they lose Brian White, they're going to be throwing Sartini up top at striker.
listen, Kylian Mbappe is struggling at Real Madrid. They've got more money than they know what to do with. They need a reliable replacement for him when he eventually doesn't reach the potential they expected him to. Here's Brian White, right?
That's just facts. And Tom Barlow's available,
Yeah, well,
probably.
not much. I think Greg won't let him go for, you could give Greg $100 million and he's not getting rid of Tom Barlow.
It's fair.
And if he is, he's only going one place, and that's to San Jose with high pressing Bruce Arena, who's just going to run you into the ground with his USMNT 11,
He can't make that team. He hasn't had a cap yet for the USMNT. Once
which
he
is
does, then he's
criminal.
allowed.
Which is criminal, by the way. Yeah, so LAFC move on. I think Vancouver showed really well. Probably could have gotten a result or two, but at the end of the day, they're missing that 1 or 2 players that can put them into the next level, in my opinion.